I'm Natasha Vitamore, and this is the H Plus Academy Roundtable. Our featured guest is cryptocurrency entrepreneur Ibby Benali. Ibby is the Chief Marketing Officer at Hypercycle and Singularity Ecosystem Leader at SingularityNET. Today, we're going to talk about cryptocurrency, what we need to know to better steer our own participation as individuals and to look at the larger social, economic, political community of cryptocurrency. So welcome, Ibby. I'm so pleased to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Very nice to be here.
Let me ask you, just to set a little background, how did you get interested in the first place in cryptocurrency?
I would say that is about 6 years ago, when I was thinking about the technological solutions that we have for problems today. And then I discovered Ethereum, and I thought, and the story was, oh, this programmable money, which is something I've never heard before. Money with which you can buy, vote, and take part in an ecosystem. So it was multifaceted with various functions, and that really interested me because it showed me that if you could further progress this, you could really change the world in a democratic way, a true democracy, in my opinion, where there's accountability, where there is transparency as well. So that was about 5-6 years ago. And then later that summer, I thought, well, what if you decentralize AI? That would be really, really awesome. Right now, you have tech powers really hoarding up all the AI talent and powers in the world. And it would be great if we could actually decentralize AI powers, because that is the biggest power, in my opinion, that will be on the world. So then SingularityNET came around. I saw Ben on TV with Sophia, and I got in touch with Ben. And then I started my adventure with SingularityNET later that year. So that's how I got started, with some idealistic motivations, I would say, as well. And yeah, here I am now, 5-6 years later, and still going.
There's so many different topics to talk about, but let's start out. What would be the 3 most important things you suggest, Ibby, for someone who's new to cryptocurrency, who wants to build a wallet, doesn't even know what a wallet is, the basic hardware or software, hot or cold, that we'll be using? What do you suggest to get started? 3 top things.
Okay, so there's a lot of information out there that is currently being shared, and there's various ways to get started in crypto. But I would suggest the way that we also discussed, Natasha. It is a bit of a harder way, but I would always go with a hardware wallet. It's definitely worth it to learn how to use one. A hardware wallet is basically a wallet just like this one. It looks like a USB stick. And here you have your crypto addresses from various blockchains as well. And you manage your assets essentially through this hardware wallet. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this hardware wallet and not any of the other wallets is because it has cold storage. And it means that basically it means that if it gets connected to your computer, even if your computer has a virus, it can't get on this. And most of the other solutions, basically any non-hardware based solution, could be sensitive, for hackers, unless you have a paper-based solution where you've literally printed it out. It cannot be hacked.
So are you saying that the cloud is not secure for us, that we should use the cold and hardware rather than uploading to the cloud?
Yeah, exactly. So it's technically also not really, uploading to the cloud, but indeed, like the browser extensions, for example, that you have today. So you have MetaMask, which I use in combination with a Ledger wallet, safely. But you also have browser generated wallets, for example, or you have, you can go to my Ether wallet, for example, and create a wallet there. But the point is that they're on devices that are connected to the internet, right? So that if somebody would want to access your private key, in order to access your wallet, they could potentially hack your computer. So in that sense, it's not safe. It's not safe to upload your private public key to the cloud either. It could always be hacked. And it's also not safe, as we could see in the last weeks, to keep your money at exchanges, as you are not in control of what they are doing with your money. If you've seen the FTX news, basically FTX borrowed out user funds to Alameda, another company in the corporate FTX structure, against their own tokens. So like basically giving out their own stocks to get money, right? So that is not the way to go. So every couple of years, or you see a major exchange essentially fail in crypto, and it gets in the news, and it's the attack point that crypto experiences in the media. It really jumps on this. But the basic premise of crypto and how it all started as well, with Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto, is the premise that if it's not your keys, it's not your crypto. And it's not truly decentralized, right? So if you really want to participate in crypto with a decentralized ethos in mind, you will need to manage your own crypto and kind of become your own bank, right? And having a ledger like this one is pretty good. This is also the one that I recommend because I've used these ledgers for 5 years now, and there's also other brands out there, but I haven't used them, so I'm not going to be recommending them.
I'm going to say 2 thumbs up to the Nano Ledger, because it's what you suggested I get, and I did. And you walked me through it. And I was trying to reach for it, but my cord isn't long enough to show. I have it right on my desktop. It's, again, cold storage hardware. It's easy to get. You purchase it, but make sure you purchase it from a known company, because there are companies that will sell these cold devices or hardware that have been manipulated in the back end, maybe recoded, and so that they can hack into your stuff. Make sure you get it from a viable company.
Yes.
Okay, so that's number 1, cold
this case specifically, in this case specifically, ledger.com, and not any other website.
Not any other. Okay, number 2, what is the second most important thing we should know?
Well, especially as somebody beginning in crypto, I would definitely recommend to keep the scope small. And with that, I mean just only pay attention essentially to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And first really understand these two technologies. You could also look at Cardano, for example. Crypto is complex. What I see a lot is people hear from other people that are also just beginning, hey, there's a project called XXX, and if you buy into it, you will get this much profit. Now, these type of promises, please beware. Nobody can promise you profit, also not in crypto. But if you basically stay away from all the altcoins and more sort of, well, new projects, because these are starting projects, right? Most of the time, that would be best. So just Bitcoin and Ethereum, then even, if there's a bear market, what we've seen in the past, usually it will be okay. Of course, this is not financial advice, but it is definitely reduces your risk profile if you just stick to like the top 2 or 3 coins out.
With that, I'm going to go over my notes here. There's something I wanted to bring up that ties into what you just said. There's thousands of cryptocurrencies, and it's easy to get confused of what are the ones that are coins and what are the ones that are tokens. So when looking at what to buy to build a portfolio, you would suggest Bitcoin. Of course, that's very high. Ethereum. And you mentioned Cardano, which I have. Is there a website that will show the value of these different companies and how they're trading and how they're
Yeah,
going
I
up
mean,
and down?
Yeah, for example, you have coinmarketcap.com, and that one displays, all the pricing and market data and statistics and where you can find it and to trade it. Now there's also other websites that may be giving reviews about certain crypto tokens or coins. However, I would be a little bit beware of that because there's, of course, a lot of advertising and sponsoring going on. And unfortunately, I've been seeing that a lot of projects do not disclose that they have sponsored the influencer, or the influencer doesn't do that either.
Mm,
So please be aware of that. Make sure that you really understand the technology before you're getting into the other more smaller cryptos out there, essentially. That you understand, like, how are they really generating a network of value, right? And who is exactly
right.
behind it. Just like with any startup, really, like if you want to invest in a startup, that type of due diligence is what you would need to do with crypto tokens that are just starting out as well.
That makes sense. And if you get, say you get Ethereum and you want to turn it into something else, maybe US dollars, you would go to Coinbase and these different exchanges. How do we determine what exchanges are actually viable? And you earlier talked about the issue with FTX, and that was an exchange. So how do we become more mindful and smarter about discerning which exchange bureaus to use and how to use them?
Yeah, so in general, there are a couple of big exchanges out there. And you can also find them on coinmarketcap.com. There's also a list of exchanges, and you can sort them by volume to figure out which ones are the biggest ones out there. I've been using Binance and KuCoin, Coinbase, and also Uniswap a lot, for example. Um, but in terms of how do you really know, it's the problem is that blockchain promising transparency doesn't make companies transparent, right? Yes, we can see all of the transactions on the blockchain, but we do need to keep a company still accountable for sharing certain transparency thing. Like if we don't know what their wallet is, we don't know what they're doing, right?
Right.
Uh, and that's also what you saw with FTX, is that he was building in a back door in order to be able to move millions or billions
Billions,
to
yeah.
Alameda.
But
So
you mentioned Binance, but Binance was going to save his rear
yeah,
end, and
I,
they
I
pulled
don't
out.
I don't I don't think his true intention was to save him, to be
Well,
honest.
yeah, they were competitors, but he was going to go
I
in
mean,
and
the question is, why would a team like Binance, after doing due diligence,
well,
supposedly,
after they did their due diligence, they pulled out. They
yeah,
rescinded on their proposal to help with the situation, and they seem to be like the white knights or the good guys coming in, and then went, uh-oh, this is really muddy water. We're getting out of here. And then FTX went total down.
I mean, there's a lot to say. At the end of the day, they were also a competitor, so I don't know about the true
Yeah.
motives,
Okay,
right?
right. So we always
Binance.
like to think of the Robin Hood or the White Knight coming in to save.
Yes, yes, but it
Never
was
know what the true intention is.
yeah, exactly. You never know that. But in any case, that does point to that the current exchanges also do not per se have the transparency
Yeah,
uh, protocols to really guarantee you that you know what's up with an exchange. So therefore, my third piece of advice, I would say, is never keep your crypto, on an exchange. Always, well, it's actually kind of like the first, but it's take it off the exchange and put it on your Ledger wallet. If you want to sell or buy, take it to the exchange, do your action, and take it off again.
right. Now
Uh,
there are some people that do leave their money in different locations, hoping it will build over time, kind of like, I guess, if you're not trading high, but it's just an asset that's sitting there. But what you're saying is that's no longer trending to do that, or do you have to
no,
do it?
you can actually still do that. There's also other solutions. So exchanges are not the only places Well, at least let me put it like this. You have centralized exchanges like Binance and
Mhm,
KuCoin and Gates, etc. And then you also have decentralized exchanges where you can swap with other users or trade P2P essentially.
mhm,
You can use other solutions as well, and you could also participate in other types of programs like staking or yield farming in order to generate alpha.
mhm.
So that's still possible. And to be fair, like I don't know like how these exchanges have arranged their business. So some of them even have an insurance fund, right? So to be fair, perhaps it's worth it, to keep your money at an exchange. But if you want to
Stack,
be
yeah.
absolutely 100% certain that it's yours and that nothing can happen to it unless you lose the keys, essentially,
Mhm.
then you really need to keep it on a ledger.
One thing about before we change directions here, I want to go over one thing with the exchange bureaus and going to them. Something I learned having done when I did it for the first time, and it's an interesting metaphor for when you're waiting in line, like in bumper to bumper traffic. It's called gas and the expense of gas. So would you explain that to everyone who might not know, or just clarify it if they do know what's the latest on gas and how to get around it?
Right, right. Well, you can't always get around gas, but you can do some things that make it a lot cheaper, at least. Gas is basically the transaction cost that you're paying to run a smart contract or to send Ethereum or some other assets from A to B. And why are you paying that transaction cost? So there's all sorts of people around the world that are currently running nodes for Ethereum, and they're using electricity, obviously. So within the protocol, it's built in that these miners or proof of stake offers all get some sort of reward in exchange for making this network essentially possible, and by lending out their computing power. So yeah, basically, you pay gas for these miners. They make a bit of money. They pay the energy, and they essentially make sure that the network is up. In terms of how you can lower your gas, because the gas fees change. There is a gas fee tracker. I can look it up in a bit. But basically, the gas fee tracker tells you how much gas you would pay at a certain point in time. And depending on how busy the network is, here I'm sharing a gas fees tracker in the chat, where you can see one. And depending on how busy the network is, you pay a little bit more or a little bit less. Now you
Mhm.
can use a side chain, like for example Polygon, where you would run an app on top of layer two, essentially. So you have your layer one, which is your infrastructure blockchain like Ethereum, and then you have a layer two, like for example Polygon. And Polygon basically batches the transactions and sends them, and that makes your transaction fee go down. So you can save a little bit with that. And of course, also whenever you're sending a transaction with your ledger or MetaMask or whatever, sometimes there's also an advanced options button, and you can adjust your gas fee with that. Now, a higher
You could
gas,
pass others by paying more, and you could do that
right,
yourself.
right. So if you want to take the fast lane on the
Right?
blockchain, then you can really turn up your gas a
Yeah,
lot, and that means that your transaction gets prioritized, right? Because
right.
it's the most profitable transaction to process, so it gets prioritized in the network.
Right. So I like that. So it's really good because I was in that, and you were with me. I was in traffic. I was like bumper to bumper, and the clock was ticking, and I wanted to get my my exchange going, and so we opted to up the price. And anyway, it was fun. It was fun to explore. Now let me ask you something else. Now we understand that there's different types of cryptocurrencies, thousands of them, and then there's the first tier of like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and some others. Um, NFTs are easy to make too, so they can kind of obfuscate sometimes, and sometimes in good ways and sometimes not. But I think one of the issues is once you build your wallet, what are some of the basic foundations for the wallet, and can you turn that wallet into money? For example, in your lifestyle, Ibby, you don't really use cash anymore. And I find this really interesting. But once you adjust to that, it sounds good. Now, mind you, we've always talked about an economy that would be digitized. And I remember FM Spandiari used to talk about that when there's no more money, but it's not the same thing. There still is money. It's just digital money, so to speak. It's not bartering, skill for skill. So let me ask this, in building a wallet, what do you suggest is the best wallets to have? What is the wisest way to build them? And how do you get your wallet into something in real time, like a Visa credit card or a MasterCard?
In terms of how can you get a Visa card, for example, that allows you to pay with crypto? Now, I haven't actually tried the one via Ledger Live, but Ledger actually comes now with an offer where you can create a Visa card that uses your crypto as collateral. I have a card via crypto.com. And there's also others that are offering it, like Binance is also offering a card like this, and some others as well. And basically what these cards allow you to do is to either borrow out your crypto for fiat and use that, or basically just use your crypto as collateral, or to just directly convert your crypto into the currency that you want to use, so that you can use your card. So in that way, I've been paying for my rent, my food, my beauty treatments, my my everything, the holidays, exactly in that way. So
So what is the interest rate?
it's nothing significant. What's the interest rate? I wouldn't know it by
I
heart
wonder
right
if,
now.
when you think of interest rates, there's a reason for an interest rate. So what would it be on this card? So MasterCard and
Well,
Visa,
it is a debit credit
right?
card, right? So I don't think,
Yes.
I'm not even sure there's an interest rate actually.
Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking there wouldn't be an interest rate, not in it, but there could be something, a metaphor for it, like, gas is your waiting time, and you do pay for the electricity and for those who are keeping the
No, you
camera
do.
going.
It differs per project and per card, of course. But some cards, for example, my card requires me to lock up 3,500 USD worth of
Mhm.
CRO tokens in order to get that card, and then I get special perks with it. So, for example, I earn higher rates
Mm.
by crypto as well, or I get free Spotify and Netflix, also not unimportant. Or I get and I get also I'm not sure, 2 or 3% cash back on every spend in crypto.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty good. And yeah, it adds up nicely. Yeah, could definitely recommend.
So, okay, so very basic things we need to know. But what about some of these groups on Reddit and other forums that are talking about the dark web and cryptocurrency? What do we need to be aware of currently with the dark web?
Well, I mean, first, if you want to access the dark web, you'd need a special browser for that. So I think that most people are not really ever connecting to the dark web, really, unless they're really looking for it.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, sure, criminals may be using crypto, but they've also laundered money for years before crypto, and they've also done other
Right.
things, with financial crimes before crypto. It's not that since crypto's introduced that there are now new financial crimes or
In
anything, right?
our chat window, Josiah said,
Mm.
in my own view, Monero is fine as it's also mostly used on the dark web.
I wouldn't know about that. I know Monero, and I used to be quite a fan of the coin years ago. To be honest, I haven't really paid attention to Monero lately.
Okay, and let's see. Max was saying, I'm curious why Coinbase doesn't offer Monero. I think you can get it with a separate Coinbase app, but that app has bad reviews, exclamation point.
Mm, well, I'm not sure. I do know that at the time that there was a lot of media attention for Monero and its use in a criminal network. But personally, I do not know enough about Monero. But maybe it was not allowed on Coinbase because they have a very strict selection procedure anyway for
Mhm.
allowing things on there. So there might be all sorts of reasons why they haven't allowed.
Do you see it as possible to regain the original vision of cryptocurrency and for there to arise a system of cryptocurrencies that are truly stable in value? Well, that would be kind of impossible, wouldn't it? I mean, nothing is absolutely stable. It doesn't fit with homeostasis. Unusable for purchasing real goods and services, third-party manipulations.
Mhm. So yeah, truly stable in value. That is hard to say. It might be that it's always going to be a bit volatile, but also yeah, stable on what time frame?
Yeah.
Uh, is because in that sense, things haven't really been stable in all markets.
No, in
Um,
fact, we're in a rather um, unfortunate market right now. So I was
yeah.
told to hold off until the bull market came back. And I was listening to a video this morning about the the customary time frame for markets ups and downs, and it was said 4 years. So if the bull market's kind of ceased in 2021, so we're in a bear market now. So if you look 4 years, would you agree with that simplification of it, or do you think it's far more complex?
Yeah, it's always hard to predict, right? For me, let me put it like this: the first bear market was a pure nightmare that I experienced. It was really like even like emotionally like, am I in the right, industry? Is this really gonna be working out? And then the next cycle you see it happening again. Everything is perfectly fine. Everything is higher than ever. And then, another bear market hits. But I remember still so fresh that the all-time high around this exact price, which is now considered a low, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I believe in the technology and what it can do and how it can change the world as well. So I think that, who asked that question?
Is
Gennady.
Janadi? Yeah, here.
Janadi. Yeah, so I do think that there will be a future where it's going to be also usable for purchasing real goods and services. In fact, within crypto, businesses are doing business with each other, paying each other crypto already, right? So it's already being used in that sense. And I think that the only thing that's in between, real world usage and crypto at a higher scale is also the accessibility. We need to develop better user interfaces to crypto because right now it is challenging and it is hard for beginners, and there's also so much new stuff that came in the last years that is just hard to really get an overview in the beginning. But I think that if we are improving, user interfaces to crypto, that it will be easier. If the transaction cost remains low, that it can actually be a real alternative that is just more profitable to have. And also, we need to spread the word, right? There are still a lot of people that have heard about crypto, but they've never really interacted with it. And it's really important that we get people to interact with crypto and learn what it is about and how it works. And then I think we can definitely achieve this. And another thing is we see it also develop in all sorts of industries in different ways. So, for example, I think that gaming might be an industry where we see this being used for real stuff already, right, with NFT gaming. But you see that the big players are also making moves with collectibles and wearables and the uniqueness of items and that kind of stuff. So I would definitely see it develop then as well. And regarding independent of third-party manipulations, I think that not just crypto, but just we as a world really have a lot of a lot to do there in this area. I personally have been thinking a little bit about organizations that are really radically transparent and kind of a mix between community, a company, and open source software, and that has its own, little democracy, like we have at SingularityNet, for example, as well. Or you're also working on a DAO project yourself, Natasha. So, using decentralized autonomous organizations, which need a lot of development still. It's still at a very, very early stage right now, but using these technologies, we can probably, get at least better insight and spot it earlier, because right now we don't know where to look. And if we don't know where to look, we cannot spot it.
I think it's important also, and I agree with what you said. Is it's all about education, isn't it? To bring people into the fold by explaining it so easily. And let me ask you this, Ibby, would you say that explaining it in ways that people can identify with, such as, for example, every bill, every dollar bill or ruby or whatever, every method of exchange, monetary exchange in every area of the world, each one of those bills has a number on it. And
mm,
those numbers trace that bill to the bank, and you don't know who has it necessarily, or do you? Yes, you do, because it goes into your bank account, and that number is traced by computers and whatnot in the account. So every bill in the world does have a number, and that's how it's identified, and that's how banks identify it, and the government identifies it. So the cryptocurrency is a code. It's your number on it, or a QR code, and that is your part of that bill for that transaction. And so it's no different than the numbers. It's just done differently. It's not physical. It's digital in that way. But I
mm.
think you take a bill and you show someone, here's a number on the bill. This is that number. That's how it's traced. That's what the bank looks at. That's what the government looks at, et cetera.
Right, right, right. And also, like in the news of the European digital currency, I think that's also an interesting one to touch base on.
Yeah.
So they also, want to release a digital currency, and I think this is exactly where you can see the stark difference between decentralization principles and centralization principles, right? So they want to have all the benefits from blockchain and that kind of stuff, right? But then they will decide when you will need to spend your money. So there's going to be an expiration date on your money. So if you're getting a social security benefit, for example, then it might say you will have to spend it within 5 years, otherwise it gets canceled, right? And that's exactly like the dystopia that I'm fighting against.
Right.
Right.
And I know that here in the United States, that when you get your Social Security, you don't
Mm,
have to spend it, but you have to take money out of it. You get your Social Security check each month, but any investment that you have, like an IRA, you have to take a certain percentage out of that and spend it each
right,
year
right,
after you're 72 years old, or 71 and a half, somewhere around that chronological age spectrum. And it's forcing you to put the money out in the marketplace, and you're reducing your financial security in that way, because you can't reinvest it, or if you do, you have to pay taxes on it. I mean, there are some safe harbors for it, but not good enough for those of us who want to live a very long time. So, speaking of long times, let me ask you, what, in your view, having been immersed in this environment on a daily basis, living the lifestyle of this marketplace, this economic structure of cryptocurrency and blockchain in your daily life, and your experience as the leader of a smart group of people that are changing, the face of the social economic scale. What is your dream of the future of this? You just kind of said it in a way that that eliminated that governance overseer, but where can it go in what other areas?
It can go in so many different areas. But I would really like to see a revival in how we look at democracies and what we expect from them, essentially. I kind of like really want to, ever since I was a little girl, I've always found it so weird that people only vote like once every 4 years, and that's it. And then they just do whatever they want in politics, right?
Mhm.
And I really want to see that change. What I really, really like about crypto, that if you have, for example, liquid democracy with voting, where you can basically assign your votes to, for example, I could assign my votes to Natasha, right? She's organizing awesome roundtables, and I want her, to be keep doing this through a DAO or something like that. And I assign my tokens, to Natasha. Now, Natasha does a great job, but then eventually, perhaps Natasha doesn't show up anymore, right? Or she decides to do a different show or whatever, right? Now, usually in a current democracy, I'd be stuck with that for 4 years.
You'd
Uh,
be stuck with me for 4 years. Unless
yeah,
someone takes me out.
yeah, and oh, if you're reelected, you an eighth. But in any case, I'd be stuck with it for 4 years. But in a liquid democracy, I can immediately action on that by withdrawing my tokens and assigning it to somebody else, right? And then that is an immediate power impact on Natasha, right? So there's an immediate accountability. Now, imagine that there's something, in law going on, in politics going on that's pretty, heated, let's say. And you could immediately, as citizens, give your leaders feedback by withdrawing, moving, or adding your vote to a particular person. Now, of course, this doesn't come without challenges. It would make things incredibly complicated and complex. But if we do have perhaps the right, technological systems, perhaps powered by AI in the future, maybe we can actually make that happen. And I think that there is a case for diversity in democracy. There are so many different groups of people on this world, and they all want different things. And I think that, communities have the right to have their own way of ruling themselves. And that you can actually make that possible with decentralized, well, democracies in a way, where you maybe share a couple of things, together that everybody really needs and wants, like food, right? But other things, you decide yourself how that culture is shaped and formed. And I think that that would just make the world really a better place, because right now I just see people fighting over wanting to be right.
But if more people buy the coins or the tokens, they have more rights. And so then you get into that icky area of the wealthy or the haves and the have-nots, etc. So if you have the voting based on viable character, credibility, usefulness, purposefulness, all these things, um, it starts getting into that area where you don't want it to get too woke. So do you have any ideas on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one token, one vote is not the only way to organize governance. I'm personally a big fan of figuring out reputation systems that attach a weight to people's, well, how they're basically involved with a certain project, to the extent to how they're involved with a project and their expertise and talents and skills. Um, so what you could do with different governance, proposals, let's say that you have a network of companies that you would want to collaborate with. For example, each of these companies, could have one NFT, and that basically is a membership-based voting, right? So you could do membership-based voting that is not about having a specific number of tokens, but just having a certain membership, for example. You could also use reputation systems, as I said, to track reputation scores across. You could really come up with any mechanic that you want that would fit your case. Perhaps you'd even want to have some sort of liquid representative democracy. That's also possible. Um, you can really do anything you want, essentially, and really sort of like make the rules that would fit you.
Hmm.
Uh, but the majority wins democracy that we have today is currently our best solution that we have, right? So we should also not disregard that. But it has many flaws. And yeah, there's many influences in politics. There's a lot of money in politics as well, right? That kind of like also plays a role in what people are eventually voting. Um, and I think we need to look a little bit deeper at that, anyway. Like what type of technologies do we also allow to influence people when voting, for example? Like, is that something that we want? For example, one time when I figured out there was this there's this a company, not Cambridge Analytica, but something like that, and I guess it was less worse, but still bad. And they basically know per house, what a person will vote, right? Personally, I am uncomfortable with anyone from the government being able to guess what I'm going to be voting. Um, I know it's for them just market research, and it's kind of like normalized, I guess, right now to know these type of stuff. But there's clearly like also like an influence in a way for how can you really pull people, to the one or the other side. Whilst you have to teach people to think for themselves,
Hmm.
and make a decision based on that essentially. But that to the side, there are different ways how you can run a DAO. Membership based, one token, one vote, perhaps also curved. Maybe you only want to count it up to 10,000 tokens, but if you have more than that, it doesn't matter, right? Or something like that, right? You can do all sorts of rules there and design
Right.
it the way it fits your project.
For reputation management, how would that be discerned? I mean, maybe someone is really skilled and has worked, 24/7 on a project associated with the DAO, but may not be the nicest person, or maybe may have a big ego or have a self-promoting. Let's just say that's, I think, probably one of the biggest things we see today, people promoting themselves on social media, um, versus someone who may be more introverted and quiet, but really is not skilled in technology to do some of the back end work, but has a really solid level of uh, commitment to the cause, or volunteering, will give up, his or her their its time to just, do the little things. How do you gauge that with a reputation management system?
Right. So, I mean, there's no, reputation system yet that does everything perfectly, right? And I'm not sure if there ever will be. But there's different types of reputation systems currently also being developed at SingularityNET, for example.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, so basically, you can look at various things. So for example, you could look at when there's an AI service hosted on the marketplace and you want to sort of allow for an automatic sorting of services for a buyer,
Mhm.
right? You could look at the feedback that users of AI services are giving after using that AI service, right? And that would feed in what is recommended and what is not already. And in a similar fashion, perhaps you have that you're giving out volunteer rewards, or you have volunteer
Yeah.
activity on Discord. So reputation management on Discord is, for example, another a great example. So if somebody is always active online, participating, helpful, or whatever, and maybe they are collecting like emoji stickers or whatever on Discord, right? And maybe that counts towards some sort of system. Then you can really sort of
Okay.
get an overview of how are people behaving. And of course, there's also quiet people. And actually, this was recently a topic as well with SingularityNet. Is like how do you make sure that the quiet people also really participate. And I think, and this is me putting my marketing hat on, it's about putting it forth the right way, essentially,
Mhm.
for also an introvert to react on things.
Yes.
Actually, quite frequently, introverts always think that other introverts don't react, but a lot of introverts react, right? And so it's I think that if you keep that in mind, but also really constantly monitor the system, because we're not there yet, right? I mean, we have these ideas, we still need to fully build them out, we need to test them. Who knows how long this will take? But in any case, when building these systems, what we should definitely not do is say we're there, it's done. It's never done. We always have to look at it, reflect on it, see how does it work. Do the various personality types also, get a place within this organization that we're carrying out, and do we really get the best of the world essentially in the organization? Is that something you should always ask and constantly improve the system on.
It's absolutely fascinating. So the NFTs, there's been much to do about NFTs. Are you working with many at the Singularity Net, or is it steering a little bit away?
No, I'm touching lightly on some of the NFT topics at SingularityNet. Yeah.
The ones that I've seen mostly on people's Facebook pages and whatnot, yeah, I'm not drawn to them. And I don't know if it's because of my background that I'm not drawn to them, but I'm simply not. And I think that's okay. At first I came down on myself like, no, this is it. Everyone's doing it. You should get involved in, but it just doesn't sing to me. It's not
Right.
music to my ears. Are there more people like me, or am I an outlier?
No, absolutely. I think that there are more people like you as well. Now, I mean, the NFT world is pretty big, right? You have like real art pieces that can go for, 6 million, or I think the highest was like 63 million or something from people. I don't know. So you have those, and these are collector's items, right? These are really moments in history that
Yes.
people are collecting with these NFTs. And then you have your retail NFTs as well, right? And some of them are just only art, and nothing attached to it, like no perks or anything. Like most of them are actually just art. And then an NFT is released and a club is started around that art and etc. But that might not be as interesting for most people, and it is the one that you probably see most frequently passing by
Yes,
on
I think
Twitter.
so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
what is more interesting are the NFTs with perks.
Yeah.
So perhaps, if you maybe Humanity Plus will be dropping some NFTs, and that will give you exclusive entrance to the Humanity Plus events,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That
Um,
would be really nice. Or, so you can add your own perks. Like we
mm,
frequently add perks like VIP whitelisting, or maybe something like an AMA ticket that you have a, direct AMA or a Zoom call with somebody, or perhaps it's actually a sort of a voucher with which you can get other rewards. So you can do all sorts of things really with NFTs. But there's a huge class indeed of just art. That's it, NFTs. And I would say look a little bit further than that into what are the possibilities of using NFTs in community run DAOs as well, and how you can use them as sort of advantages. It's amazing that there are a lot of young people getting opportunities in the crypto space, and everywhere around as well, in startup world as well, to do amazing, wonderful, wonderful things. Um, but if you don't know, you don't know. But in terms of what to look for now, I definitely don't think we should be distracted by stories like these, right? These stories do not define the industry. They're bad news, for the industry, and it's disappointing. And the best thing I think is that the reaction is the disappointment and the feeling we want to do better, right? So what I've heard, also from colleagues and people all around in crypto, with the FTX, going down, everybody's kind of feeling good about it.
mm,
you know um is it needed to happen. We
mhm.
need to weed out the nonsense for this industry to thrive. So this is also an opportunity for regulators to come in and see what is going wrong where exactly, and how can we prevent it for the next time and make it a more valid industry as well, um, overall. So I think that these type of things, these type of scandals, all they do is they really expose the weaknesses and where we have to look at next and what we have to fix. So for example, like with the last bear market as well, you had so many hacks, hack of exchange here and hack there, hack there, hack there. What happened after that? These smart contract auditing companies boomed, right? So you have like all new sort of security companies that are built around fixing that problem. That, of course, it's not the case that it will never happen again, but it surely happens a lot less now. I remember there was a period when every month a couple of million was missing somewhere, right? And it was a very, it was also, the sphere was a bit hostile because people were saying, not your keys, not your crypto, and almost blaming newcomers for being on exchanges that are being hacked. But I think that it really exposes the weaknesses, and it immediately also shows in crypto how resilient crypto is, because people immediately jump on that opportunity. Like, how can we solve this in a decentralized way still? And I think that was shown in the last bear market, and with the next one, I'm expecting to see crypto compliance companies really, catching up. In any case, decentralized law and automated law, is a developing industry, and maybe the next boom is all about that, about making sure that we know what these companies are doing, how they're put together, and how to be really transparent, or move actually more towards truly decentralized solutions that are true P2P with really no middleman. And that just gives the user the power to control their crypto the way they want.
When you mentioned regulation, I immediately went to, oh my goodness, is this going to create an opportunity for regulators to come in? How do we keep the regulations from becoming centralized?
The truth is, I don't really know, but I have a bet.
Okay, all right.
And my bet is that if we do a really good job in decentralization, it's just technically not possible to stop it, right? I mean, that's the point of decentralization that we're sort of trying to achieve here. Now, of course, there will be attempts to put it more under control, but the question is, can you really? I think China has banned crypto a couple of times by now, and they're still the biggest holders in the world. So it's really hard to
How can
really.
that be? How can they have banned crypto but be the biggest holders in the world?
Yeah, it's yeah.
It's too much of an oxymoron to digest easily.
Well, I do think that it's going to take off. You see, it's growing every single year. You see that the attention for it is really, really growing. In terms of people being able to get along. Now, first, it's not just the country where people live, it's also the language, right? Like,
Yeah.
for example, in Dutch, even though, we're a first world country, really good and everything, you'll never find as much good information about crypto as in English. You just don't. There's just so much more available now. But in any case, I do think it will take off. I do, but I also really am a firm believer that we need to also keep the traditional methods alive. I don't think that this should be forced on people. I think it should coexist with other methods. We very frequently we talk about, immediately sort of banning one or sort of dropping an entire class.
Binary
Where,
thinking, yeah.
you have Ideal, you have Visa, you have MasterCard, you have PayPal, you have
Mhm.
so many different ones. Like, why can't it exist next to it? And I am really in favor of keeping traditional methods as well. I also think that purely for ideological reasons, people should never be forced to use non-cash. If they want to use cash, they should be able to do that. Is my personal opinion. But I do still think that it will take off because it just has so many great opportunities, and so many things that we haven't really explored yet as much either. And it's a fairly small group of people if you compare it to other industries as well. So it really does still really need to take off like crazy, where it is a normal job, a really a standard thing you hear. Because right now it's you still, if somebody works in crypto, it's like, oh, you work in crypto, like it's really a surprise almost that you meet somebody who works in crypto. But it needs to be really widespread, and everybody needs to be involved, and kids, students, employees, entrepreneurs, everybody. And I think that it will take off. Yeah, it's 10,000 times better than what we have today, I think so.
Don't be shy to ask your questions. All questions are good.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, I put something in the chat, but to extend from that. So I've been using primarily Coinbase. I tried to use Binance, but they apparently shifted from one country to another. Now I can't access my original amounts, which fortunately are very tiny. So I'm a bit suspicious of Binance now. So in Coinbase, I mentioned that Monero, which was recommended to me as being an especially private one, and maybe promising in some ways. They don't seem to offer that, but I think you can install. I'm not sure if it's a browser extension or if it's a wallet that's a separate app from the online, the web-based Coinbase, and that apparently does offer it. So I'm wondering if you can tell me a bit about I guess they call it the wallet and how that works. It doesn't have great reviews. It's like 2.5 stars out of 5. So can you tell me about that and whether that's something I should use or if there's a better alternative?
Yeah. I think with what you're seeing, I believe, if I got correct, Coinbase, and I don't work for Coinbase, so I'm just from my own user experience. They do list it in the watch list section on the app, so you can track the price and the movements, etc. But they don't sell it. They haven't listed it on the exchange part. So I think that's perhaps what's happening there. I could have a look for you where you can get Monero. You can definitely store Monero on a ledger. So it has an app for that. But on Coinbase, I don't think they sell Monero.
Does Binance do that? And yeah, I'm a little wary of Binance because I can't access the original account now because they moved it and their instructions didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's also like with some of these exchanges that I mentioned anyway, like I think KuCoin might be hard as well, and Gate. Like some of these exchanges don't operate in the US, and so that gives a little bit limited options anyway. But let me just have a look for you where you could find that. And in fact, I could also perhaps show how you can find that.
I guess I can Google it easily now, but I just wanted to use what I already have if I because it's just another complication. I have to set up a different account with a different exchange, and so I'm hoping I can do it that way. But if not, I can look at some other ones.
Yeah, sure. Just have a quick look for you.
And maybe you could list like what you think is the top 3 or 4 most secure. We have Binance and Coinbase, the two that often come up, but a couple others you think are pretty sound.
Yeah, well, I see that they're selling it on Binance, KuCoin, Kraken, amongst others. These are all exchanges that I personally use. Of course, I cannot look in their books, so I don't know if they're hiding a little FTX in there. But as far as I know, they've been very solid. I've been using them for years myself as well. Okay. Yeah, so KuCoin, Kraken.
Cardano is great. I like Cardano. One of the issues I had when going to an exchange bureau, I had to go to 2. Remember, Ibby? I went to to Coinbase, and then I had to get Ethereum, and I had to pay myself, and then turn it. And I was going around in circles. And when I spoke to our attorney for our H+ DAO, he said, "Why aren't you just using the cryptocurrency? Why do you need US dollars?" I said, "Because I think in dollars." And I said, "Well, when I hire people to work with us, I want to be able to pay them." He said, "Pay them in cryptocurrency." And I immediately thought of Ibby, and I'm talking to our attorney and trying to figure out our smart contracts and setting this up. And he's just going, don't do that. Get a credit card. And I went, oh, Ibby was right all along. So, I think that it's getting away from it's one or the other. You can use the cryptocurrency on a credit card and not have to spend money on gas or any of the exchange bureaus and trying to get your dollars or whatever denomination you want it in, or euros, and get confused that way, which it can take you down a slippery slope for sure. But just get the credit card and do it that way. What do you really want to use the exchange bureaus for?
For me, it's purely to buy and then send back to my ledger, or to sell and send back to my ledger or my fiat bank account. That's really the only reason why I use exchanges.
Yes. And that keeps you out of
and
trouble too. And it
that keeps you out of trouble, indeed. Yeah. Nobody can borrow your funds to somebody else as well.
Yeah.
Of course, I have a little bit that I leave on exchanges that I like to trade with myself. So exchanges are good for that as well. They have some cool earnings programs, but always remember, always, not your keys, not your crypto.
What can you say, Ibby, on Internet of Value when everyone in the digital metaverse has a token in their identity and has a kind of value like Bitcoin?
Oh yeah, I think there is still a lot to also win in the creators economy with the Internet of Value as well, right? So with the metaverse, um, at the basis you could have some avatar that's roaming around this world doing all sorts of actions, and it has a wallet, and with that wallet they could pay some things now and then. Um, but I think that you can even go further and really look at what kind of creator economies can we do here. So we're actually working, for example, on a metaverse project at SingularityNET that I'm leading, and we're developing all sorts of meta modules that allow other creators to create metaverse experiences within this framework, leveraging our tools and the NFT infrastructure underneath it. And others can also contribute to creating NFTs, like, for example, special wearables, or maybe it's a spray paint for your metaverse car, or whatever it is, really. So I think that it just really enriches, like, especially in the creativity fields, like how you can earn money and how you can participate. And closer, the Internet of Value becomes closer to how do we want to live our life? What is our lifestyle question, right? Like, how do we design that essentially? And in the metaverse, the first real, immersive world, like, I cannot wait until we have a way to do like 3D Google essentially with search results. Like, in the moment we can have these type of experiences online, right? It's just gonna be really, really amazing, just mind-blowing. But that really would generate new types of opportunities for people, especially in the creative world, that we haven't really thought of before, probably. I especially, like, really still remember, like, maybe like 15 years ago, when I was trying to decide what do I want to study at the time. And it was always said, well, you could yes, you could do something with art, but there's not really money in art, right? And I think that it's going to change in the coming years. The demand for artists is going to skyrocket, because everything in the Internet of Things and Internet of Value is going to get a face. It's going to get a face in the metaverse. It's going to get an identity of visual representation. It's going to be connected to APIs. It's going to be connected to other applications and apps. You're going to be able to hack it. You can do all sorts of things. This is just unbelievable what is yet to come still. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Oh, that was a great way to end our session, but I still have one more question. Thank you, Josiah, for bringing that up. It's important and a beautiful way to close out. But let me just sneak back in here. And I'm sure that many here, as well as in our studies group, will want to know this. So this is great.
If you buy a ledger, when you download the app, there will be a tab which allows you to get a card as well, request one. You could go to crypto.com and check out their cards, Binance as well. And alternatively, you can look at the top 10, cryptocurrency exchanges on coinmarketcap.com and see which one of them may offer a card for you. And yeah, you can then just simply compare the terms between them. They are quite different sometimes. And then pick the one that fits you best. I definitely like the ones with a good percentage of cashback. It definitely comes up. So
Are these international, or are they
yeah, they are.
they're
Yeah, they are
really-
international, tried and tested. I've traveled with
Okay, and
them.
oh,
all
that
sorts
is,
of
I think,
places.
probably what would be asked. The next question, well, are they geographic or country owned or international? And that's
Yeah.
really good.
Now, I do want to say
Yeah.
maybe for the US, there are different rules. I know the USA has a particular rules about crypto. I'm from the Netherlands, by the way. So we have a little bit of different rules here. But do double check. But in principle, people that I know also from the USA also use these cards and
I'm so
successfully.
glad you said that. This is very important to know the laws of wherever you are in the world on that. So that's just a tidbit. So thank you for answering that. There's been a couple questions in the chat. Josiah says, yes, with digital twin or omniverse by Navita.
Yeah.
Josiah, was that just something you had said about the metaverse?
Oh yeah, he's confirming. Definitely check out
Confirming. Okay, what you had
Omniverse.
said in answering him. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And then here, Visa is global, so crypto through Visa presumably would also work internationally. Well, this is good about Visa. Okay, that's great. And by the way, Visa is an interesting company. I have founded D. Hawk's book on decentralized corporate forms. Okay, that's great. So there's a nice tie-in with the book on decentralized corporate forms by D. Hawk. Okay, good. Thank you for that. Any information we can share just builds the information wealth of our community, so that's good. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, Ibby, let me take it back to you. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I really like sharing knowledge about crypto as well. So if anybody here ever is going to be setting up a ledger and really needs help with that, I've also given a workshop to Natasha, and I can also give a workshop to you, so you can get started with it. And I can give also personal advice, etc., or anything you need to really get it rolling in crypto. So yeah, just let me know. You can email me at ibby@nthsense.xyz, or
I'll put it in the chat. Yes.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the workshop I did with Ibby and holding my hand through some of the difficult things really made it easy. And now when I look back, I go, gosh, she must have thought I was really ignorant. And it has nothing to do with ignorance. It's just, it's like the first time I remember going into Second Life before it became more modern. It was daunting at first, but then you get familiar, and just like all of this is going to become second nature to us. Thank you, Ibby, so much. You are a superstar in my eyes.
Thank you so much. You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.